Have you ever wondered what it is about reaching for our dreams that feels so hard and requires so much of our own healing? Are you curious about how moving towards your own creativity might heal what's making you feel stuck? Well, that is why we made this show. I'll be having conversations with emotional health experts as well as artists, musicians, and creatives, all with the intention of resourcing and inspiring you to uncover your true creative self. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Heal Create Podcast. I am your host, Courtney, but you guys knew that. I am excited today because I'm going to talk about something that I end up talking a lot about with clients. And whenever I notice a theme, something that it just comes up a lot with different clients, I think to myself, that would be a great podcast episode. As a matter of fact, that was probably how this podcast was created in the first place, was because I kept noticing these themes of things that I, would be talking about or working through myself and thinking, man, this would be a really great podcast episode. So that's what we're here to do. Today, I want to talk to you about the difference between your instinct and your intuition. I'm really excited about this because it's something that is so easily confused. You're moving towards something, you're really excited about it, and then you feel like your body goes, ugh, no. And then you think, you know what? Maybe that's not for me. Maybe I've heard people say, maybe God's peace isn't on that. Or maybe that's a sign that I shouldn't do that. Or I just don't feel comfortable with that. And it gets really tricky to know the difference between what your authentic self is being led towards or led away from and what your instinct is trying to protect you from. So first, let's define, if we will, what is instinct? Your instinct is what's created over time based on what you've been through. So we have a survival instinct. That's like the whole phrase. A survival instinct is your brain and your body working together to keep you safe. Always, your instinct is always on, and it's always trying to keep you safe. How it knows what's safe or dangerous is based on what you've been through. So a lot of the times your instinct will be biological cues that you've gotten from a past pain or wound, that your body will be looking for anything familiar, anything that looks like that, and it will be trying to protect you from it. So we all have natural instincts like, not to touch something that's hot. Or when we fall and we put our arms out, we have these instincts, when they like tap your knee and your leg kicks out. And there's some like basic, like programmed into every human, these instincts that we have for survival or just, these human instincts. But a lot of what we think of as instinct is our body trying to protect us. So when you have a whole history of all kinds of things, good and bad, it will result in you living in a body that will be trying to protect you in specific ways. So, for example, if you were bullied or you were in situations where relationships with people proved to betray you or really hurt you, then you might have a really strong instinct against getting into a relationship. But if you're confused about your instinct versus your intuition, then your instinct will make you think, oh, maybe this isn't the person I'm supposed to be with. Maybe this isn't the job that I'm supposed to be in. Maybe these aren't the dreams that I'm supposed to pursue. Because for whatever reason, every time you move towards that, it sounds like a good idea. And then every time you move towards that, you have this like feeling in your gut and your body. You have this like almost like invisible wall between you and the thing. That's a Sarah Baldwin term, this invisible wall. And that really is confusing, especially in a time when in our culture and our social media, we're learning so much about listening to the body. That is such an important thing to do. It's such an important relationship to have, this conversation with your body around what's best for you. However, we should 100% listen to our bodies, but we should also 100% interpret its signals accurately. And that can be where it gets tricky. So this is one of the reasons why it's important to have an understanding of what your trauma is and where you were wounded, so that you can know when you're facing something and you have this like check in you, you can say, is it possible that I have this check because this thing that I'm wanting or moving towards is actually reminding me of something in the past? Because that is your instinct. And it's so confusing for people that feel like they have compulsions they can't understand, or fears, or they shut down, or they get anxious and they can't understand why or what's happening. If they're thinking that that's their intuition guiding them through life, then they're going to have a lot of false starts and they're going to burn down a lot of really beautiful things. Your intuition would not do that. Your instinct would, though, because it's trying to keep you safe. It doesn't really care what you build. It doesn't really care how far you move forward in your life. It just wants to keep you from getting hurt. Your intuition, on the other hand, is completely different. Your intuition comes from your authentic self. It's a deep knowing that comes from a relationship with love and wisdom and hope. And that intuition is, you can think of it as your spirit, your spirit seated in heavenly places, or the small voice of truth and wisdom inside of you that's guiding you forward. And it's always going to be loving, joyful wisdom. That's your intuition. Completely different than your instinct. Now, loving, joyful wisdom doesn't always mean it's going to tell you something that is always going to make you feel fantastic in the moment. We know now, hopefully, that that's not what being human is about. A lot of the times, the things that we want to build are going to require us to do things that are uncomfortable. And we have to know, based on our relationship to loving wisdom, if this thing is, even though it feels a little scary, if it's something that's actually going to be good for me in the long run and that I can handle, then it's safe to move towards it. Our intuition, our relationship to that loving wisdom will tell us that. So when you feel confused about what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, I want you to think about a couple of things. First of all, let's look at what are some of the big things that have happened to you in your life. At this point, I mean, honestly, even if you're just on social media, you probably have an idea or an awareness around some of the trauma that you've experienced. And I say trauma because trauma is just the unresolved, painful experiences that we've had in the past. That's just what trauma is. It doesn't have to mean the deep, dark, heavy work of going inward. So much of your healing and your forward motion requires moments like that, but that's not what's awaiting you on the other side of figuring out some of the traumatic things that have happened. Even if it feels like that for a moment, I promise you that what's on the other side of you understanding your trauma is more self-awareness and compassion and a more expansive view of life, because you recognize, oh, the reason I've been afraid so much of my life is because of what's happened to me, not because of what I could create in the future. So understanding your trauma and what's happened to you is a really important thing to do. It's an important journey to go on, because when you know, then you can look at the situation ahead of you and compare it to where you've been. And that'll be a clue as to like I said already in this episode, is this actually something that is a red flag for me? Or is this something that's reminding me of something that I've been through? And it's actually an opportunity to heal that memory, heal that version of me. The other thing that you want to pay attention to are what are some of the things that you dream about. When you feel lit up and inspired and so excited, I'm watching myself right now in this podcasting app camera, and my hand expressions are really big. Just so you know, this is a huge deal to me. When you are thinking about some of the things that you dream about doing, when you feel calm, curious, creative, inspired, joyful, when you're having those like really excited, true self moments, what are some of the things that you dream about creating from your authentic self? There are a lot of ways to get in touch with your authenticity and your authentic self. I think really imagining what would be the ultimate best case scenario for me in my life is a great place to start. It'll show you some of the things you hope for. It might even show you some of the lack that you've had in the past, because you're trying to recreate that recovery of it in your future dreams. It's just a really good thing to know about yourself. It's the thing to know about yourself. Who is my authentic self, and what are some of the things that I dream about? Your authenticity, your authentic self, you're going to be able to find that in thinking about your life up to this point, thinking about what are some of the things that have always been true for me? What did I used to love as a little kid? What do I spend my time thinking about? What do I spend what do I spend my money on? If I had unlimited funds, what would I do? What feels really important to me in relationships and in life and in the kind of career that I want to have? All of those things are clues and pieces of your authenticity. And it's going to be different, of course, like a fingerprint, going to be different for each of us. But when you know your authentic self, these are my values. This is what I value. This is what I dream about. This is who I authentically am. When you know that, then you know that when you get a check in your body, when you move towards something or when something happens, or you get triggered or something happens and you just feel uncomfortable, you're going to be able to line that up with your authenticity. Well, am I still moving towards some of the things that I want to create? And is this a moment of discomfort and healing? Or like that my instinct is throwing at me because it's this is reminding me of what I've been through? Or is this something that actually, you know what? I'm moving towards this thing, but I have this kind of intuitive prompt as I'm thinking about my authenticity and I'm thinking about who I really am. I'm actually realizing that I don't want to go this direction. And my best case scenario is actually in another direction. That is your intuition. That is the intuition that lives inside of you and is available to all. It's so important to learn how to calm your nervous system enough, even for small moments, to be able to access that and to continue to orient to that. Because the more that we orient to our authentic self and our dreams and our hopes for our life, the more that we are able to cultivate this relationship with joyful wisdom that is our intuition and differentiate it between our instinct. I hope that that helps you. You know, it's funny. I was just meeting with a client the other day and he was saying, Courtney, something that you said to me in on our first session, it made such an impact on me. You said, you're going to have the most beautiful life. And that just felt really good. And then I saw that was like the tagline in your business email. And then I saw it was the bio on your Instagram. And then I saw it was on your website and I realized like, oh, this is just like what she says. And I was like, it is what I say. It is totally what I say, but there's a reason for that. And it's 100% authentic because there's a couple reasons. The science is there, you guys. It is a miracle that I am where I am today. It's a miracle that after being diagnosed with anxiety and severe depression and complex PTSD and going through such darkness, that I actually am able to feel so present in my life now, so powerful in my creation of the things that I dream about and my future, and so connected to love and to God and to myself. It's a miracle that I'm here, but it is not a mystery why I'm here. It's not like, I don't even know how I got here. No, I did the work that we actually have information about how to do in this day and age. There is so much science around healing. There's so much science and experiences and other people's stories and testimonies, if you will, around people actually recovering from anxiety and depression and so much, trauma and darkness. It's not this big, mysterious, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I will say that a turning point for me was when I was walking through my journey. I was in trauma recovery, and there was a point when my therapist said for me, dreaming is imperative for healing. That's literally what she said. Dreaming is imperative for healing. And I feel like I got it. I understood in that moment. Oh, so healing isn't actually just feeling your pain until it's gone. That's actually not what we're meant to do. We've got to give our nervous system somewhere new to go. We've got to give our brains and our bodies hope and a destination point in the future. And that feels really, really, really scary when you're so used to and your body is so primed for danger that you're kind of hiding and in a shell. It feels so scary to imagine a future where you're healthy and happy. It just feels too vulnerable, because if you're healthy and happy again, then you could get hurt even worse. But that is the thought that comes from a dysregulated, traumatized body and brain. And the truth is we want to bring in the idea of your dreams and your goals. We want to bring that in as often as possible, because we want to show our bodies that where we're at is not all there is. And slowly but surely, the more that you're able to focus on who is my authentic, beautiful self, what's the healthiest version of me possible, what would my most loved self look like and express as, and what does that version of me dream of doing, then you actually, over time, that's such a powerful way to continue to move forward out of the place that you're in, and you can have the most beautiful life, your version of the most beautiful life. Once I realized this, I couldn't stop telling people that. People would be telling me some of the hardest stories that I've ever heard. It's incredibly heartbreaking what can happen to a human being. And they would be telling me their stories, and I would put my hands on the shoulders of so many people, whether they wanted me to or not. And I'd be like, you are going to have the most beautiful life. It makes me emotional talking about it now, because I know that it's true. It's true for myself. There's a ton of science around it. There's a lot of resources. So we live in a generation where this isn't taboo anymore to talk about. It is actually possible to come out of hard places and into a beautiful life. And as you do, you're going to want to know the difference between your instinct, the part of you that is set up to protect you, and all of the cues and messages it gives you about warning, and your intuition, which is that adult, wise part of you that is connected to joyful wisdom and guidance that can help you program your instinct so that it serves you and doesn't continue to hold you back. I hope that that helps you guys. And if you have any questions, you can always find me on Instagram and ask, or find me through my website. But I just want to encourage you again, it's a miracle that I'm here, but it's not a mystery. And it will, the more that you continue to move forward, the more that you'll find that I believe God is here to support you moving forward, that the whole universe, wants to help you heal. There's so much available to you now, so much. Even when it doesn't feel like it, there's so many resources, so many beautiful things that will help you heal, and healing is possible. It's so, so, so possible. So keep going.